Welcome to Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. Today, it's my honor to speak to myself once again. Kind of like multiple personality disorders, but hopefully you'll get a kick out of today. So some of the interesting questions I've been asking folks about fundraising, I think I was going to deal with 4 of them today. So the first was kind of, what is your favorite part about fundraising? So I have to say that I've been in the business for almost 30 years. I love what I do. If I didn't love what I would do, I really wouldn't be doing it. So my favorite part is actually having that genuine connection with people. I've actually had donors thank me for giving them the opportunity to make a gift. That's really my favorite part, is when it's matching a donor's passion and the charity's passion all at once. You hit that sweet spot and there's absolutely nothing better. So then, obviously there's the flip side of that, which is, what is my least favorite part about fundraising? Well, I have to say that my least favorite part is managing unrealistic expectations. And that can be from boards, it can be from bosses, it can be from colleagues. It can be from colleagues in the institution that aren't involved in fundraising as well. Sometimes they have too high of an expectation and may not be willing to help you reach that goal. Oftentimes, I find that the more successful you are, the more you become your own worst enemy. So if you have a campaign goal that's, say, $5 million and you hit $6 million, well, then that becomes your basement, right? That's your bottom that you go, and it's just, okay, next year do more. And at some point, it just becomes overwhelming to always try and outpace yourself from the year before. You're actually going to get burned out. I've actually found that with the managing expectations, some folks have a low expectation and really don't want to work any harder than they absolutely have to. People's attitudes and the busyness in the fundraising profession ebbs and flows depending on the year, depending on the time of the year, depending on the time of the month, all those different things. But for someone who's just kind of clocking in and doing the exact bare minimum, they're probably in the wrong profession. So, what was my best canvas? It's interesting. I've done numerous canvases. Actually, my best canvas is when I never ask for the money. I have a discussion with a donor and they've said to me, "Oh, Jack, I see what do you need?" And so when I was at a hospital years ago, we were talking to a donor and she said, what would make Dr. X's life so much easier? And so we spoke to him and he said, a certain widget, which would help him in his surgery. It was about $250,000. And she said, "You'll have a check next week." So again, I never asked. She asked me, what could she do? But really my best canvas, and I'm not saying any stories out of school, it's all public knowledge. There was a donor that used to support the institution I was working with. A Greek immigrant came to Canada when he was about 12, 13 years old with $40 in his pocket and could not read or write English. Fast forward about 60 years, he still probably couldn't read and write English at the level that he was comfortable with. But he had built a housing empire. He owned a whole bunch of companies. They built homes. He was in the carpet business. He had a whole bunch of other tertiary businesses. But anyways, he'd always been kind of a modest donor, about $50,000 a year, has been going on for numerous years, but there was obviously much more capacity there. So I knew that he was a very proud Greek gentleman. So what we did is we were thinking of $1 million at the time. And at the time, it was going to be a naming opportunity. So in Ottawa, I was at an institution where it was bilingual. It had to be in both English and French. I took it a step further and I had all the signage done up by the architects for an artist's rendering. I had it done in English, French, and Greek. And it had the Fustinalis family waiting room, I believe is what it was called, in English, French, and Greek. And he was absolutely amazed. No one had ever done that, right? Outside of the Greek community for him. So interesting canvas. He says, okay, we'll do the $1 million. So of course, I bring out a pledge for him, 200,000 a year for 5 years. And he says, I'm not signing that. And my heart started pitter pattering. I'm like, oh my gosh, now what? And he said, well, I want the ability to skip a year if I have a bad year in business. So I said, no, okay, that sounds fair. I said, well, can we agree that in 5 years from now, we'll have $1 million cash from you? Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're asking him to sign the pledge. I don't sign anything. So I learned, I had dealt with this donor for numerous years before this gift. He was a man of his word, shook his hand, and we went from there. The auditors weren't too thrilled with me, but whatever. What was interesting is he used to call me about every 6 weeks. He said, Jack, you want some money? Sure. Just get your butt down here and come to my office and I'll give you a check. So he used to give me these weird checks all the time. But the moral of the story is he paid it off in 8 months. Had I stuck to my guns, it would have been paid off in 5 years. So the reality is that sometimes you have to have that flexibility on a canvas and not be so scripted and really be willing to kind of go off script. So that was my best canvas, right? So now there's the flip side, which is what is the worst canvas I was on? And there aren't too many that were, the worst canvas. But there was one of them that I'm thinking of in particular. I canvassed this individual along with the campaign chairman at the time, who was, a decent donor in their own right. But meanwhile, this donor was a fairly large donor, but certainly was not giving where his peers were. And we were just kind of going there to kind of raise his sights. So the canvasser and I outlined, I think it was about 6 or 8 different reasons why he should kind of go from here to here and what the impact would be. So it was all very cordial and respectful. And he said to us, and he said, you know what, I've heard this. He says, let me kind of ruminate over it for a couple of weeks and loop back to me. All right, that sounds perfect. So the canvasser and I were heading out to the parking lot, and he turned to me and he said, Jack, you have to follow up. I'm going on vacation for the next couple of weeks. I'm not doing any work from there. So I said, okay. So I called up the canvasser, or the prospect, as promised 2 weeks later. And he said to me, Jack, I spent a lot of time thinking about what you and my colleague had presented. They're all really great points, but I just don't want to do it. So I was deflated, right? So it felt horrible. But at the end of the day, when I looped back to the campaign chair to kind of tell him what had happened, he said to me, he says, Jack, you can't control what people give, right? All you have to do is try your best and let the cards fall where they may. So it was a bad canvas in the fact that we didn't get what we had asked for, and we thought that we had done some really great work. And at the end of the day, it kind of turned out to be something that wasn't as fruitful as we'd hoped. That being said, he didn't go down. He maintained that gift, and I think he maintained it for the next 5 or 6 years and finally moved up very, very small increments. But that would kind of be my worst canvas. So, folks, I hope you've been enjoying Tales from the Trenches Tuesdays. I have a whole bunch still in the bag, ready to go. I think that they're all planned out through Labor Day of 2023. So another, it's February, so another 7 months now. But anyways, I really do hope you're enjoying it. Hit the subscribe button, and it will be waiting for you every single Tuesday morning. Take care. L'chaim.